So, welcome today to the Champion Chat, where we explore the ideas and stories that shape our lives and our communities. I'm your host, Carl Garth, and today we're discussing something close to home. How do we build good communities and how do we be good neighbours to each other? As always, I am joined on the chat by Councillor Alison Champion. Welcome, Alison. How are you today?
Hello, Carl. I'm fantastic. Happy to be here. Thank you very much for asking.
Excellent. And today, Alison and I are joined by some local
Mm.
citizens who have dedicated themselves to contributing to our local community and fostering community spirit. We'll be exploring their insights, experiences, and their practical advice on how we can all contribute to making our neighbourhoods better places to live. So let's start by introducing our guest today. We're thrilled to have, first off, Glen Crawford.
Mhm.
Glen, would you like to introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure, thank you, Carl, and thank you, Alison, for the invitation.
My pleasure.
My name's Glen Crawford. I'm the group leader at Viewbank Scout Group, and I've been in the group for 10 years, and I've been the group leader for 7. I'm a full-time worker, and I have 2 children, and have lived in Viewbank, Rosanna area for about 25 years.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Glenn. And we also have today with us Fred Harrington, OAM. Fred, would you please love to give us a bit of an overview of yourself?
Mm.
Thank you, Carl, and again, thank you, Councillor Alison, for the invitation to talk.
My pleasure.
Yes, I've lived in Montmorency for a little over 50 years and have been involved in the community predominantly. 15 years with the Eltham Apex Club and been a member of the Eltham Cemetery Trust since 1983. Also over the journey been involved with Monty Tennis Club as their junior team manager. That was some time back, and I guess involved with the primary Monty South Primary School when our 2 children went there. They're now in their 40s, so it was a fair while back.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that, Fred. And look, I think the big thing with building strong and supportive communities is it really does start with us, the people who actually live in the community. So to kick things off, I'd like to ask each of you, and we'll kick off with you first, Glenn. What does a good community look like to you, and how would you define it?
Yeah, I think a good community is one that has a common purpose. I think ideally free of conflict. Not that conflict's a bad thing, because it does bring to light things that need to be addressed, but one that doesn't have ongoing conflict and ongoing conflict of the same nature. Things need to be resolved. And thirdly, I think where everyone feels they've got a valuable contribution, no matter what level, and non-judgmental around what contribution they can provide. That's my experience been really valuable.
Okay. And Fred?
I think one where the members of the community share the same ideals and probably the word vision comes in there, that you're all on the same page as what you want from the community, and a community that's got I guess a combination of interests, so that it does bring the community together in different ways, and that can be through environmental activities, community activities, or even sporting activities, and in that, I think the community and those in the community need to be tolerant and supportive of each other.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
And Alison?
Absolutely. Oh, I would certainly agree with all those. I'd probably add a couple of things. I actually think a good community also is diverse in its thinking and respectful of that diversity. And we ultimately, and it collaborates well as well. Somehow, some way it'll collaborate, and it contributes positively. There is a freedom and a safety to contribute positively to the community, and to the place we just all want to achieve a healthy place to live and work.
Yeah, sounds good, Alison. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it really does sound like good communities are about having a big picture, a vision, shared goals and values, but also those day-to-day interactions, collaborations that bring people together. That seems to be the common theme that I got from the three of you there. So I guess a question for each of you is, how do you think we can encourage more people to take an active role in their communities? And this time we'll start off with you, Alison.
Where do I start? I think being available to be in a conversation to start with is really important. And to actually, I mean, the saying actions speak louder than words. It does start with the individual to what I call step up and be in a position that is positive. It provides a positive connection for others. But in that role, one is available for a conversation. One is available to be approached, to allow members of the community to go, right, that person is someone I can ask a question of. I am thinking of doing this. That is that person I'm going to ask. So I think it's important that, first of all, we as individuals make ourselves safely available for a conversation. But the other thing too that I do is when I'm in those conversations with people, it's I do ask them, and have you responded to that? Have you contributed to that conversation? What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
So encourage them to speak as well. And it's actually, when we're encouraging, it's just asking a direct question of that particular person.
So, Alison, if you've got someone who you know has got great insights, great ideas, and they'd really be a great input or contributing member, but they've got a bit of a crisis of confidence, not everybody is comfortable being front and centre. Do you go about actually helping them to, for want of a better term, come out of their shell and be able to shine in front of others?
Yeah, I would ask questions of them, and point out to them that it is important for them to contribute for the benefit of others, and also they actually have skills and knowledge that others may not have that are important for this particular activity, whatever it happens to be. And they are therefore, they're actually a valuable member of the community in this way. And I actually point out to them what I might see or what other people see that they may not have seen. And you're right about the word confident, especially this is a word that I hear a lot, unfortunately, from women. One of the things I hear is, oh, I couldn't do that because I don't have the confidence. And that used to be me. And the only difference is I created confidence. I made a conscious effort to create confidence for me that allows me to be this person in the community.
And Fred?
I think we're picking up on something that Alison said there. It's generally that personal approach. If there's something that you see there's a need to address or get involved with, it's contacting someone personally to try and get them involved and use their skills and expertise. And I think it's also about people somehow raising the awareness of opportunities for people to get involved. There are dozens of organisations out there, as Glen said, with Scouts. There's clean up groups along rivers and all sorts of activities that people can get involved in and start to get themselves more deeply involved with their community.
So really it's about identifying that opportunity and then helping people to see where there's a good fit there, Fred.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I guess I wouldn't have joined Apex unless I was personally approached and said, hey, how about it? And I can vividly remember the day when I was walking back to the office and got a tap on the shoulder from a member of the Eltham Cemetery Trust who's still a member, and saying, hey, Fred, have you ever thought about being involved in this? So it is that personal approach, sort of thinking, what might be needed in the community, and then approaching those that you think can, follow through on what you're looking to achieve.
Glen, your perspective?
Yeah, I think that they're all great points, and you mentioned, Alison, diversity, and it's really key to um, acknowledge that everyone, there's just so much diversity and difference in everybody, whether it's their personality, their abilities, their availability, their family life, their experiences, and all that just creates such great great fabric to any sort of community as such. And I think encouraging people to take an active role, the level of that activity is going to vary as well. And so not on the committee, on the parent group support committee, but we need those roles. And because you only need one person, not everybody needs to qualify. And that's okay. There's no need to be pressured or stressed about that. But I think the other thing is that this is the old age question of what you might call volunteerism, right? And when we talk about these community type roles, they generally are volunteer, and so there's passion in there that creates and contributes to the motivation to be involved, not just a need. And so I think encouraging people to find out what's important to them and what they actually care about, and often, at least in the community that I'm in, it's which is not uncommon. It's often family centered and doing things together with people they know, so friends, and that's actually common with the football group we've been involved in Banyule, the Scout community in Viewbank, let alone the district and the state and the country and the world, because Scouting is global. And my daughter was in Europe last year. My son was in the US a few years ago at a jamboree. So they've extended themselves within this organisation. But getting back to the question, making an active role, provide them with entry points of involvement that are non-threatening, that we're not going to collapse if you don't join. we're not going to things aren't going to fall over if we don't if this doesn't happen, for example. So it's not like it's an end of the earth sort of thing, but being flexible, non-demanding, and expecting people's commitment to the extent of their own will.
It's interesting, actually, Glenn. One of the things you really alluded to a moment ago was tapping into people's passion.
Yeah.
And
if they're good at maintenance and they're passionate about it, give them a job to do, and they'll love it. And they in doing so, they've got that. For example, they've got access to the hall, they've got access to the lines of communication, they've got access to the next opportunity, the next door to fix, or the next this or that. That's it. And they're just utilising the strengths of people that we have around us, rather than complaining that we don't have this or we don't have that.
Yeah, that's a really, really key point. Yeah, it's just being aware of what's available.
Yeah.
And what's possible, and creating that. And the other thing too, with people who have certain skills and knowledge that they want to contribute, they'll become comfortable, if that's the right expression, and they'll start showing initiative, and then the ball.
So it's up to the leadership to identify those people. And Fred mentioned before, he said that he was tapped, and not everybody will respond to being tapped. Not everybody will respond to being tapped the first or second time. I was asked to be group leader 3 times.
Yeah.
On the third time, I said, this is right for me. But it took a few months, and things in my life weren't going to allow me to do it. And so I wasn't able to commit. But being persistent, the prior group leader saw that, and he saw what the group needed, and I think that was a good thing. So not to dismiss that at all, that people... There are people that will respond to being tapped because they then feel there's a need, and that there's more value because they're needed, and that they contribute to that. That's a really key thing as well.
But I think the other point that you just raised there as well is timing. Timing's everything.
Yeah, timing. Yeah, true. Yep. So no now might not be no tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so not to burn that bridge.
Exactly.
For example,
keep that door open.
I've got a parent on the committee at the moment who's just joined. She's on the committee. We're looking for always looking for new leaders, new adult leaders to come in. We had the information session, and it wasn't, given that her timing and schedules weren't really consistent with the need until now. And now she's available, and now she's actually stepped up to become a leader of one of the sections. So what wasn't now is. And so not to burn the bridge, but to keep encouraging, keep that community, keep their relationship, and just think, and not to worry about it, not to be anxious about it, because it works out.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's true. It does always work out because there are enough people who allow for that.
Yep. Yep.
Mm.
And because we're not just fine-tuned thread, it's not like we're balancing on the edge of a cliff that's going to fall over if we don't get a leader, or if we don't have this happen or something. It's just this flexibility and this kind of this approach where it's things will happen in time and it'll happen at the right time.
I think also if you're pressuring people, they may start to be a bit more reluctant.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's entirely, a successful approach.
Yeah.
The other avenue of I guess encouragement or providing opportunity is through technology. I note on, say, Monty Life Facebook page, there are often, various community groups promoting their activities and encouraging residents, people in the community to come along to help with that cleanup or to help get the Monty Hub off the ground or whatever. So I guess that's another avenue that various community groups have got to use to encourage others to join them and come along and see what they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, actually, and look on that, you've just talked about Monty Hub. Can each of you share a specific example of a community project or initiative that you were involved with that you felt really actually brought the community together to work for a common goal? I might start off with you, Fred, if you.
Yeah, it's been a little while for a few, but there are a couple that stand out over the journey. I mean, as I mentioned, I was involved with Eltham Apex, and along with the local Rotary Club, we saw a need for some further activity in the Monty area, and collectively we worked together to establish the Rotex Theatre in Weir Street on the site where the news agent is. And through that we had to go out to the community and sell shares, for want of a better word, and get community involved and use a number of volunteers to clean out the old supermarket that was there and fit chairs and that. And so it certainly brought a whole lot of people together to get that facility. Sadly, for a range of reasons, it's no longer there. But I felt that was a project that really brought people together.
Okay. And what was the outcome of that project that actually achieved for the community there, Fred?
Well, there was a community picture theatre or movie theatre there in the heart of Weir Street. I'm not sure that at that time Weir Street was as vibrant as it is today, but it certainly saved people predominantly traveling into the city or other suburbs to get to see, get to have a night out at the movies. It was by and large run by volunteers. So there was a wide range of people involved in that project.
I've actually got a question just on something you said there, Fred. You mentioned the community was asked to contribute shares, for want of a better word. Can you just expand on that? What was the request of the community to participate in that way?
Well, when I say shares, I can't remember the exact terminology of the document, but there was a cooperative set up, and so people pledged an amount to that cooperative that allowed the organising group to go out and gain the funds to establish the facility. So that's what we were looking for from the community, to people come on board and sign up to the cooperative.
Okay, and my understanding is, having heard that there used to be a theatre in Weir Street that obviously was successful from a financial point of view as a cooperative, it was successful for a point of time.
Yeah, that's correct. It ran on for, I can't remember how many years, and And yeah, sadly at the end, it just became a situation where it was no longer viable and had to close down. And there was a call on those pledges made to the cooperative to, to clear the debts. Yeah. And just as a complete aside, I happened to be at the Eltham Historical Society's building a couple of weeks back, and there's the plaque from the Rotec Theatre sitting in there under their care.
So,
Oh, it's lovely. Good. Yeah. Okay.
Glenn, would you like to share?
yeah, yeah, thanks, Carl. Just thinking about this question, I can think of a few, but the one that really stands out, Alison might recall back in 2018 or so, where I took over in 2017 as group leader, and we were numbered around 40 odd population in the youth, and we've more than doubled that. We're like 110 youth now, one of the largest scout groups in Banyule. And one of the key things around that were, in between time we had COVID and we had a slight reduction through that, and then we've picked up again since then, but we haven't looked back. And I think some of the key things were two things: market stalls with the movies in the park that Banyule Council ran. And another one was, it was a jumble sale that we held at the hall. And we sold tables for $10 for anybody to come in with all their wares and sell them as a market. And we did that out of the Scout Hall, and that was absolutely unbelievable. It was like it was such more of a success than I ever could have imagined in terms of engaging with people that were residents, long-term residents. And we're like looking around the hall saying, I haven't been here for 25 years. Because they were scouts. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's incredible. That's awesome. And something I haven't tapped into is that history, and tapped into the stories from those times, from those people. Because the hall's still there. The hall's the same. We've refurbished it and spent a bit of money on making it so much better and more usable. But those people, I'd love to have them back, and I think this is something we should be doing and should have been doing at least annually as a not just a fundraiser but a community connected thing. Because the community at the time was saying to us, this is great. We should do this regularly. Yeah. But again, like I said, COVID hit, and then we kind of forgot about all that stuff. It didn't happen, and since then, because of the growth and everything, I still think that was a really great way to expand and make more known the group and what the group's offering to families in the community.
Yeah.
But I think also highlighting that continuity.
Yeah.
You get people, they start to treasure something more, and if they treasure it, it takes on a higher level in the consciousness of people. They're going to want to protect it, nurture it, make sure it continues.
Yeah, and yeah, so generations can return with their grandchildren and say, look at, they can see a plaque that's got their name on it. We don't have that history within the group at the moment. I'd love for that to have happened or to have occurred. But I did find the forming certificate from 1970 for Viewbank Scout Group or Boy Scout Group, I think they call it.
Wow.
So I framed that and I put that on the wall. So there's some history, I've saved that.
Yeah.
A bit,
Yeah. And there'll be people in the community who go, oh, I was part of that group, or my relative was part of that group.
Exactly right. Yeah.
I think it is one thing that sporting facilities do really well. They show that history. Like say there's a tennis club that's won a divisional championship back in the 70s. They have it. They have their honour boards and things like that. Golf clubs, football clubs, netball clubs. They all have that sort of historical, or that nod to their history, and keeping that continuity, bringing back past players, past committee people, etc., to still be involved.
Yeah, that's right. We have shields. They're like the size of, about that sort of wide, and then we've got the gold embossed names of the peak awards achieved by each of the youth with the month and the year. So that's hopefully going to stick around a while.
Well, yeah. You've got a lot of space still on that shield too, don't you?
There's still what?
You've still got a lot more space on that shield.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Well, there's 4. There's 1 per section.
Yeah.
And Alison, what about your experience?
So back in 2009, it would have been. I actually wanted to, my little project, my community cup project came from wanting to cross the road safely. And it was at a time when I was pushing Cricky in the pram and I had Nicky in my hand, holding his hand, crossing the road and walking along Grand Boulevard going to Panorama Kinder, which is where Nicky was going. And I remember trying to cross one of the roads safely, and it's a very wide intersection compared with the other intersections on Grand Boulevard, and there was no traffic treatment, there were no lines, there's nothing. As a pedestrian, you really ran the gauntlet across this road, this intersection, and a lot of people were doing it with their kids. And I just thought, well, I just want to cross the road safely. So I just wanted a pedestrian island in the middle of the intersection to be able to stop, so that if a car came up the hill, or when a car came up the hill, it it should have slowed down, and they do, people slow down, but it meant that if you're a pedestrian, you could just stop in the middle of the road safely. Yep. And then make your way across. So that and the island is there. It was actually installed in 2014. But in order for that to happen, I had to approach council, my local councillor, Steve Briffer. I had to work with the council officers, and one of the I had to have the school on board as well. So I needed Monty South on board as well. So as a parents and friends member, put it to the parents and friends, the school had to come up with $25,000 to contribute to this project. Mm-hmm. The parents and friends was asked to contribute $5,000 to that. And I ended up creating something similar to what Glen created, which was a whole lot of stalls out on the oval that people could hire a table. And our tables, I think, were $30 each. Oh, yeah. So you could hire a table and you could set up your stall of whatever it is that you wanted to sell. And there was also, you know what, the Scouts contributed to that. They set up their big climbing wall, nice. Their frame, and their climbing and walking frames, their ropes. Nice. And they set that up complimentary. That was free. And there were various other stall holders, activities that were part of this fete. And it was held on Election Day 2011, so Federal Election Day 2011. And we did raise that $5,000.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah, so got all the parents and friends on board, got the community on board, letterbox drop. I still have some of the letterbox drops. I still have soft copies. So, you know, and I asked people to help me hand those out. You know, asked people to put posters around, because we were going to make this part of the intersection and walking to the school safer for everybody.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. It's look, these stories, they really do highlight power of community action. I mean, I love that story about creating a theatre, and I'm assuming that would have been in the 60s and 70s when that was done.
No, it's a bit later than that. It was I joined in 73, so it would be the 70s, yes. Mid to late 70s.
Yeah, just the community coming together to provide something that people could actually go and enjoy at a time where, yes, as you say, you have to go all the way into the city. I just think that's fantastic.
And people still talk about that. People, even now, I learnt about it through the conversations in the community. People are still saying, oh, we used to have a theatre, a movie theatre in Montmorency, and it was, it's the newsagent now, isn't it? It's where the newsagent is, or the post office is. And, and there'd be a whole conversation about it, and there'd be a recollection of how it was created. So it's still very much in the memory of many of the community members here.
It's had a long-lasting impact.
Yeah. The other one that I sort of wrestled with was the ambulance station up on the corner of Main Road and Grand Boulevard. Again, that was a project that the Eltham Apex Club was involved in, and it involved Vic Roads allocating some land at the corner because the intersection of bits of main road were being constructed at the time along with Grand Boulevard and what is now Apex Way. So the club had to raise, I think, 10,000. The government then matched it 2-for-1. As I say, the council were involved and Vic Roads were involved, and then collectively, now there's an ambulance station there, which in recent years has been expanded and, just of great benefit to the community.
It's the third one now, I think. Is it the third building?
No, it's the
second
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's amazing what you can get done with everybody pitching in. Look, of course, building strong communities not without their challenges. Would someone like to share some of the obstacles they've faced in efforts to build community and how you've overcome them? Alison. What's your
I often have verbal objections to things. So in council there may be an application, and I'll have people ring me up and tell me what they think. And I usually respond, have you actually let the officers know? Have you responded to the application? I really appreciate you ringing me and letting me know. That's perfect. And I might appreciate an email, because I like to be kept informed. I like to know what my community wants and is thinking. So I love that they're taking the time to let me know. And then what I do is I say, look, can you please let the officers know? So if you let the officers know, then they've got feedback in that particular application. And I give reasons why it's important for people to actually take the time to share their opinion, their expertise, their thoughts, whether it's myself or with officers, because they're important. They're part of the community. So it's really important that they contribute. It's their home and they're responsible as well. And so there's always that. I'm always encouraging to speak, always speak up, always speak up. How have I overcome? I essentially listen to what people have to say, and I listen to the majority. And when it comes in our role as councillor, we have to listen to the whole community, and we need to consider the majority. And if it turns out we need to modify or reevaluate, then we have that conversation, or I'll have that conversation. At the moment, look, I'm in many conversations at the moment about our unsealed roads. There are some unsealed roads at the northern end. There are several unsealed roads in Banyule, but there are some at the northern end, and many of the residents have been trying to make changes to the roads so they're safer for many, many years. And they are feeling like they're falling on deaf ears. And it's a case of, I don't want that anymore. And there are enough voices now to join together across these different streets, these different roads, join together, come together, and really create a solution with council for a better outcome for where they live. So I'm actually in the middle of that right now. And I can see and hear there are people who are really a lot more actively on board than others, and that's okay. There are those who are the face of the community in the street. And then, I do, and we do ask, everybody needs to be in this conversation, not just you, because there are a lot of you in the street. If you live in the street and you want this change, you are just as responsible. Please contribute to the conversation. And it's a case of, I'm just asking people to be on board. That's all I'm doing. I'm just asking. And, Glen and Fred have said the same thing, tapping on the shoulder, asking the question. Yeah. That's all it is. Yeah. Anyone who doesn't want to contribute, and there are people who don't want to contribute, it's been, okay, then that's okay. You don't have to contribute. You don't have to be involved, but please be aware you also don't get to complain afterwards because you're in a position of control to a degree, and you can actually contribute to help control the outcome. And if you're not going to do that, that's okay. But you also have to be responsible for accepting the outcome, and you may not like the outcome.
And Glen, from your perspective, I mean, you've got so many different stakeholders, volunteers, scouts, etc., logistic issues to overcome, especially when you're organising jamborees or camp weekends or whatever it might be, or other activities. I mean, what are some of the challenges for you when you've got those areas to deal with?
Well, there's lots, but the first one of the first things is not take it personally. Anything, whether you can't get volunteers or you can't get commitment or you're dealing with conflict. And I mentioned those three things, so they're the three things I've thought about, and I'm thinking, for conflict coming in, there was a bit of a mismatch in what the goals were and what people's personal drives or motivations were. So facing conflict head on, and when there's buds, in the engineering we call buds of problems. So they're things that come up, say in a particular situation that could actually occur elsewhere. So we nip the bud, we address it. So we avoid conflict not by ignoring it, but by addressing it and facing it head on. So understanding who, what, when, where, why, how, and being honest, respectful in communications. And also something I found, just not apologising for doing what we do. Because we're a scout group. We do the scout thing. And so this is not my design. This is Baden Powell's design. And Scouts Victoria has been entrusted to execute that in the programs that we do. And so that's what we're doing. And sorry, we're not, there's a thing called SPICES, which is social, physical, intellectual, community, environment, and spiritual. They're all the different fundamental areas that are where the child develops in scouting. So spirituality
you're not off running and doing your own thing.
No, we're doing the scouting thing, but the spirituality thing was something that created a bit of conflict some years ago, where there was a parent that said, "Oh, I'm not doing this. We're not going to do that." So then there were some of the leaders at the time decided to avoid this part of the program. But that part of the program can be poetry, it's reflection, it could be prayer, it could be just dreaming. Your interpretation of spirituality is so vast. We can't ignore that, and that's what's taught in
it's personal, isn't it? Spirituality is personal.
It is, yeah. So we brought that back in, and that they call them Scout's Own. It's called a Scout's Own. It's the moment where the scout does their own thing, and they think about, or they meditate, or they read, or and they're just they're awesome. The Scout's Owns we've been involved in, they're just fantastic. Just really, really good. I won't go into that now, but yeah.
Okay.
And Fred, your example when you talk again, I want to come back to the Rotex Theatre. You actually had to get people to put skin in the game, significant skin. That must have been quite a challenge.
Yeah, it certainly was. I mean, it started off with very heavy involvement from both the members of, the local Apex and local Rotary clubs. So back in the days, there were, I think, in this general area, some eight Apex clubs from Heidelberg, Greensboro, Eltham, all around the area. So there was a fair bit of sort of a fair resource there to build on, and the same with Rotary. But at the end of the day, yes, it did involve a number of people within the community, and probably the main driver, sort of lived probably only, I don't know, half a kilometre away from Weir Street. So again, it was something very, very close to, and I guess we're not far away, but yeah, it's very close to those, it was people within the community as much as those sort of from outside of the immediate area that contributed.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
But
it's go on, sorry.
just go back on something Alison said before about the issue with the unmade streets and going ahead. I reflect back to the I guess it was around the 80s when the Quinn Estate, the area sort of bounded by Bolton Main Road and Grand Boulevard, were all unmade streets, and the council worked through a process to construct those streets. I don't know, there must have been a good half a dozen or more streets and 300 or so properties, and road closures, and so there was a bit of conflict in there, but a lot of discussion between council and the residents. And the outcome, not only were the roads were constructed, but it brought the residents together, even though people that you didn't really know. You met several times at community meetings, and even to this day, there's a few couples that I see around the community that the only reason I met them was back in the days when we were sort of discussing how the street layout should be and what construction standards. So something that can be a challenge, did turn out into a great opportunity to bring the community together. And I think now the area that we currently live in that part of the Quinn Estate is a good example of how the community, what a good community should be.
Yeah. And you know what? It's something similar to the mid-90s when the amalgamation councils amalgamated. I have learnt from the councillor of the day who lives locally still. He's around. We still keep in touch. But he was letting me know that in Lower Plenty acreage, so we're talking Old Eltham Road and south, again, they were dirt roads. Even in the mid-90s, they were dirt roads, and the residents through there just got sick of the dust. Not so much the mud, but the dust in the summertime or in the dry season, and they just desperately wanted some asphalt down. Didn't have to have drains or anything. They just wanted the asphalt down to keep the dust down. So that was one of the major projects that council worked with the community on to get enough asphalt down on the acreage roads there in Lower Plenty.
Yeah. And there was a similar process earlier to that when, and I can't remember which roads were involved, but and down in that Bonds Road and Rosehill Road area, where there was some initial, sealing done, and part of the funds for that came through the golf club, sort of levying a couple of dollars. I think it was $10 on the annual membership fee, so that they could contribute to getting roads down there done. So again, it was an opportunity to bring sections of the community together for a better outcome.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's really important to know that the majority of a community, certainly here anyway, certainly in this end of Banyule, the majority will be involved somehow, some way. And there will just be a minority that just won't. And there's nothing you can do about it. They will not contribute. They will not support. They will not speak positively. They will only ever complain. They just won't. And we've got to be okay with that.
I agree. Yep. I agree.
And I think what you're saying, and again, the more recent issue around Monty was the Hurstbridge line upgrade, where in the early part of that, a group of residents saw that, that was going to have a major impact on parts of the community, and wanted to get together to ensure the best outcome from the community. And that led to another tap on the shoulder, so to speak, and a group working towards that. But there were certainly many out there that were doubters and sort of, couldn't really care that what was going on. So it was a bit of a challenge at times, but through the support of council and a wide range of people in the community, there were some improvements made. But at the end of the day, it was a big build project, and and a lot of things we wanted to achieve never quite happened, but at least there was some input there, and we overcame a number of people that were very much doubters and just said, you guys are out there just complaining for the sake of complaining rather than acknowledging that the people are out there to get a better outcome
Yeah.
for the area.
Yeah, agree. And something I've heard as well not long ago. So at the same time, the Greensboro railway station was, being rebuilt, and I learnt that the community wasn't as invested in the project. They just allowed, Greensboro was just allowed by the community to go ahead, whereas many of the Montmorency community and the Monty train station group were very vocal and did their level best to go, right, we have an opportunity to contribute here, let's do it.
So, look, the three of you have obviously been quite involved in your communities. What advice would you give to someone who wants to start building a stronger sense of community in their own neighbourhood? Let's start off with Glen.
Yeah, okay. I think they should get involved themselves. They can lead by example. They can fill a need, feel welcome, and do something needed that's not being done. I think that's how they can start.
Yeah.
I like that last part, something that's not being done.
Mm-hmm.
And how would we go about doing that, Alison?
You can start asking the questions. You can go to your community leader and say, hey, I have an idea. Why don't we do this? Yep. And people do.
Yep.
People do. They come out and say, hey, Alison, this is missing. Can we do this?
And look, that's why I asked the question, Alison. The hardest part is the starting point.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a really good example. A petition came to council earlier this year from residents in Adam Crescent Grove Street in Montmorency. So that borders Nillumbik, and Sherbourne Road runs between those streets, those back streets, those quiet streets, and the industrial, the light industrial of Nillumbik on the other side of the road. It's reasonably near the Bridge Street roundabout. Mm-hmm. And I've had residents come, a variety of residents have signed a petition saying, can we please have some sort of pedestrian crossing so that we can access the bus stop on the other side of the road very safely. And I mean, that's just, yep, let's do that. That's to me, that's just a no-brainer to me. And I have, like the others in the community, they've got really good arguments for putting in some sort of pedestrian safety, making it more accessible for pedestrians. So we're going ahead. Obviously, we've accepted the petition and we're going ahead down that path. And the lead petitioner, gets in touch. She keeps in touch. She gets in touch, Alison, how are we going with this? How are we going with that? And if I have an answer, I can give it to her. If I don't, I just go, look, let me just follow up. I want to see where our officers are at, what their connection with the Department of Transport is, and I'll get you an answer as soon as I can. It's as a councillor, it's my responsibility to work out, can we put this in the budget somewhere? If so, what year is this going to go in? There are designs, there's a design amount, dollar amount for projects. Then there's also the construction amount as well. So it's a case of, right, where does this go in? How urgent is this project? How much of a priority is it? And where does it go in? And can we get it done? Can we get a design done in the first year? Say next financial year, can we do that? Let's get it in, that sort of thing. So it's lots of conversations. It's lots of conversations, but it starts with the idea and then going to the leader, the community leader of the day.
And I was just going to say, through everything you just went through, that all started with one person having some conversations with other residents or other people in their neighbourhood. Do you think this is a good idea?
That's it. And you know what? There have been times in the past where I've had a resident contact me, ring me up, and say, hey, Alison, this is missing, whatever this is. And I'll ask, oh, and what do your neighbours think? Have you had a conversation with them? They say, oh, no, I haven't done that yet. And I said, well, it'll be really good if you could just find out what your neighbours are thinking. If they're on the same page as you, are they saying the same thing as you do? That sort of thing. We'd love to know. And then I can help you out and we can go from there. And I've actually had residents say, oh, no, I'm not going to door knock. I'm not doing any of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're not invested.
And they're not invested.
Yeah.
So it's like then the idea isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Fred, any comments at all?
Yeah, I guess it's one of those, the suggestion you'd make to people is, to someone to build that stronger sense of community is look for opportunities. They don't have to be, large projects. I know around the area I live, many years ago now, there was a suggestion, well, why don't, we've got a reserve here, why don't we, do something to, make better use of it? And then one thing led to another, and now another couple and my wife and I sort of get together sort of about September-ish and say, when's the Christmas function in the park?
Yeah.
And then we agree on a date, and then generally with the aid of one of my grandchildren, we walk around the street and put little notes in each of the letterbox saying, the street party or the party in the park is on, Thursday, the 20th of December or whatever. So it doesn't take much to do that, but it just came from a conversation.
That's great.
And so, if people take some sort of initiative to try and bring people together, it's the same as our next door neighbour again has established a bit of technology that I don't know a lot about, but participate a WhatsApp for a group that takes in, Sackville Street and Orr Lane. And so if there's an issue come up, just be careful. There's a fox in the area that chewed up a possum the other night, and so keep your pets inside, or just simple things like that. One person decided to put that together. So I spoke to a few neighbours, had a few phone numbers, and all of a sudden there's someone's taken a bit of initiative and has really done something to, increase the sense of community in the area.
I think that's a really good point, that being a good neighbour, being a good, strong community, it's not always about the big grand gestures. Sometimes these small day-to-day ones help bring people together, help build connection and trust. Simple as putting notes in a letterbox, just letting people know what's going on.
Yep.
So no, that's good pick up there, Fred.
Yeah.
Well, look,
And I'm hearing that there are lots of community WhatsApp when I'm speaking with residents. Oh yeah, our street has a WhatsApp, or our group has a WhatsApp, and we use it to coordinate our Christmas parties or
cool.
whatever it is. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, look, I'd like to start to wrap up our discussion today by thanking each of you for sharing your experiences and insights today. They've been really good. So thank you, Fred, Glen, and Alison.
Oh, look, it's a pleasure, and I love that Glen and Fred, you can contribute. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's been really fun, and it's great to articulate and to think about these issues, because you don't really realise it when you're doing it, but it actually is a really good thing. So thank you.
Absolutely.
No, thank you for the opportunity to reflect on a number of the things that I think make the area around sort of Monty South the great area that is.
We are very blessed.
And look, I think the three of you have made it very clear that building good communities, being good neighbours, we can all contribute no matter where we live, no matter how big it or small it can be. So hopefully for our listeners today, I hope that you've been inspired to maybe take some steps of your own, big or small, towards building a stronger and more connected community that you live in. Thank you all for tuning into the Champion Chat. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and be sure to join us next time as we continue to explore the topics that matter most to you. So thank you very much. Have a great day.